Now, when we talk about constraints, we all know that it is a limitation. So to know the limitation of a, utility or a mission, we need to estimate it first. What is the capacity of the mission? We all know when it is a mission, there are some limitations coming from the capacity specified by the manufacturer. Okay, it may be in terms of the size, or it may be in terms of the number of units it can produce, or it can be in terms of the frequency. So there is a limitation or the specification which governs what is the output of that mission. Let us consider something like the signal which we saw in the beginning. How do we calculate the capacity of the signal? Because in public utility or in areas where it is not that easy to calculate the capacity, it is always advisable to assume and calculate. It may not be 100% correct, but it can be very close to the right figure, because whenever we are assuming and calculating, if something is over assumed, naturally, what is it? It's like a law of nature that something else will be under assumed. So what happens? It will evenly match out. If you are, and your judgment depends on your experience and your or the passion or your sincerity in doing that job. Now, for the signal which we have seen in the beginning, let's calculate the capacity. I'll give you what is the first constraint we have. It is considering that it has got 3 lanes. The signal has got 3 lanes. And we assume the following. First one is the speed of the machine at the signal is, the speed of the vehicles at the signal is 30 kilometers per hour. We all know that at signal, normally vehicles move around, first 5-10 vehicles will move at around 10 kilometers, and normally the vehicles coming from back will go at around 30 kilometers per hour. Then the length of each vehicle, we can assume the length of the vehicle to be around 6 meters, considering that an auto rickshaw is around 2.5 meter, an Alto is around 3 meter, a Desire is around 4 meter, a bigger vehicle, a luxury sedan, is around 5 meter, and a bus is around 10 meter. So on an average, we can consider that the length of the vehicle to be 6 meter. The space between the vehicles we can estimate to be around 1 meter, though sometimes you will find them much closer. Sometimes they are parked far apart. So I am taking a 1 meter spacing between the vehicles. So with the speed of 30 kilometers per hour, around 500 meter of vehicles can pass through the signal point in 1 minute. Okay, through one lane, around 500 meter of vehicles can pass through. So now we have got 3 lanes. So whatever is the number of vehicles passing through one lane can be multiplied by 3 to get the capacity of the signal. Now 500 meters of vehicles, and the length of the vehicle and the space between the vehicle is 1 meter. So we are assuming at 7 meter. So we can consider that around 71 vehicles will form a length of around 497 meters, so approximately 500 meters. So around 72 vehicles will pass through the signal in 1 minute. So it is in one lane that the 72 vehicles will pass. So in 3 lanes, 216 vehicles can pass through. Now, the signal is open in all the 4 directions. So 15 seconds is the window available for each direction. So this 216 divided by 4, approximately 54 vehicles should be passing through the 3 lanes in one direction in the signal. So we are assuming that there will be a capacity of 54 vehicles for a 15-second green signal. So you can just assume that if the vehicles are moving at 30 kilometer speed and the length is 7 meter, then approximately in each direction 54 vehicles should pass. If we go to a signal and estimate how many vehicles are passing through, maybe we will find it is between 25 to 30. So actually, there is no constraint at the signal. Actually, we are underutilizing the capacity because of all these constraints which came in. As and when we eliminate these constraints, we will be able to avail the full 15 seconds available at the signal. And if the vehicles are moving at this speed, you will easily get 54 vehicles to go through, or in every minute, around 216 vehicles can pass through the signal. So if it is 60 minutes make an hour, so in 60 minutes or 1 hour, approximately, you should have around 12,000 vehicles passing through. I hope I'm clear on this. In 1 hour, through that signal point on a 3-lane signal, approximately 12,000 vehicles should pass through. Do we have that much of a rush at the signal? Do we need to put another flyover to bypass this rush? So when we are calculating the capacity of this utility, we should always estimate what is the capacity there and then go further. If there is going to be 20,000 vehicles passing through that signal point in 1 minute or in 1 hour, definitely you need to have a flyover. But if it is going to be only 8,000, 9,000, then there is no need. We have to only utilize the signal better. So this is how you calculate the capacity. Even for all the missions also, we can calculate the same way. What is the time available and what is the output per minute? So once you know these two things, you will be able to calculate. Now, even in this calculation, we have assumed two things. One is the speed and the length of the vehicles. If you alter them, automatically your calculations can go up or down. So once we know the capacity, we can work on that and see to it that the maximum vehicles flow through the signal. Now, let us go to the next point in constraint elimination, which is the statistical fluctuation. Statistical fluctuation, you must have heard of cricket commentators speaking when Tendulkar or Virat Kohli gets out on zero. They would say that the law of averages is taken care of. What is it, the law of averages? It is not that nobody is going to be scoring all the time. In 4 or 5 innings, you must go through a lean patch of 1 or 2 scores below 10, or maybe 1 score of 0. So once he gets that score, it knows that it will continue to be on the higher side unless there is a slump in the form. This is called statistical fluctuation. Not every time we can expect Virat Kohli to score a century. He will have a lean innings. This is called the statistical fluctuation. It happens everywhere. In a machine, it is happening in the signal, in the traffic. So here, for an example, I'll tell you, if 5 cars depart from point A at the same time, all 5 will not reach the destination at the same time, even if the route is same. So this is a statistical fluctuation. All the 5 cars are starting from the same point and the same destination, same route, but one will reach earlier, one will go slower. The same thing, second thing, the same exercise is repeated the next day. It is not necessary that the results will be the same. If today the order was E, D, C, B, A, next day it did not necessarily be the same order. It can be A, B, C, D, B. So this is what it means by statistical fluctuation. In an enterprise or in a working atmosphere, this statistical fluctuation is unavoidable. Now, the next thing is dependent events. Dependent events, it means that the occurrence or outcome of the first event, if it is affecting the occurrence or outcome of the next event, these two are called dependent events. If action of B has to be in response to action of A, then A and B are dependent events. Now, when you are talking about constraints, whenever the number of events are more, you will find that the chances of dependent events keep on increasing and the probability of statistical fluctuation increases. For example, let me show you a game of chess here. I've just shown a chessboard. Here I've given the number of positions or variances you can have after the first move. Let's say white moves one pawn, and in response the black moves. So this is one move each. You can have 400 permutation combination. You will have 400 different combinations after just one move. So it's a dependent event. White is moving, in response to which the black is moving. So these two dependent events can produce 400 variations. After the next move, after that, the white is moving again in response to the black move, and after which the black moves. Now you have 4 moves, 2 by white and 2 by black, and you will have 72,084 combinations. Similarly, after the third move, you will have approximately 9 million variations. Not approximately, this is exact. This I have taken from the chess figures, or 90 lakh combination. And after just 4 moves, you see that you have got 288 billion variations. It's not 288 million, it's 288 billion variations, which you can have on this simple 64 square chessboard played with 16 whites and 16 black. See, just 4 dependent events and you have 288 billion variations. Just 3 dependent events and you have got 90 lakh variations. So the more number of dependent events you have in an enterprise, the more chances of fluctuations to happen and more chances of variance to happen. Okay. So now why I am talking about this? Is there any way to minimize the statistical fluctuation? The answer is nil. We can never minimize the statistical fluctuation. It is going to be there. It is a law of nature. Then what is that we can do about it? It is we can only find ways to minimize the impact of statistical fluctuation. For which, first one is we need to be sensitive to the combination of statistical fluctuation and dependent events. As I showed you in the chessboard, if you are having 4 dependent events, please be sure that there is going to be a lot of variations. So try to minimize the number of dependent events you have inside the enterprise. Next one is look for creative ways to minimize variations. This will help you to reduce the impact of statistical fluctuation. Next one is always be ready for this fluctuations and build sprint capacity. What is sprint capacity? It's called the fast response capacity. Let's say on the 4th dependent event, you have find a big fluctuation coming in. You should have a standby constraint equipment ready, or you should have a standby response for such a variation. This will help you to minimize the impact of statistical fluctuation. So we are coming to the end of this constraint elimination class. What are the benefits of eliminating critical constraint? It increases your throughput, which means your billable quantity. It improves the competitiveness of the enterprise. It improves profits. It improves delivery time, and it reduces the fixed cost per unit. So by eliminating critical constraint, you find that the throughput is increased, the competitiveness is increased, profits is increased, delivery time is increased, and the fixed cost per unit reduces. So it's all related to money and competitiveness. Now, we will just see a small slide comparing the different methods we have to enhance the performance of the company. And let's see how the profits change in line with the changes we make. I'm just assuming three things here. The unit selling price of a product is 100 rupees. The unit cost is 95. And the throughput or the output is 1,000 pieces. So you have a revenue of 1 lakh and you have a profit of 5,000. Or 5% is the net profit you get. Now, imagine the Japanese way, where they try to minimize the cost. So in this scenario, the selling price remains the same. The unit cost reduces by, let's say, 5 rupees. So it becomes 90. The throughput remains the same because we are not increased the capacity anywhere. We are not eliminated any constraints. We have only done cost reduction. So the revenues remain the same. Now the profit doubles. It becomes 1,000 because it's very simple. Your cost is 90 and your unit selling price is 100. So you're making 10 rupees per unit and you get a profit of 10,000 rupees. Okay, doubling the previous profit. So when you did cost reduction, you double the profits from 5,000 to 10,000. Let's go the other way. You have the throughput is now 1,000. You make that throughput to be 1,100. Your profit per piece is only 5 because your unit cost is not reduced. So your revenue becomes 11,000 and your profit becomes 5,500 in response to this 100 increase here. So 5 into 1100 becomes 5,500. So you have a 10% increase in your profits. By doubling or by increasing your output or throughput by 10%, you get a better profit. You are increasing your profits by 10%. Let's now go to this session here. This scenario, you reduce the unit cost from 95 to 90. You increase your throughput from 1,000 to 1,100. Your revenues becomes 1,10,000. Now, what is your profit? 10 into 1100, which is 110,000. So when you increase your throughput and when you reduce your unit cost, you find you get the maximum gain. The profits moved from 5,000 to, 11,000. Oh, sorry, there's a change. Yeah. The profits moved from 5,000 to 11,000. And the revenues increased from 1 lakh to 1,10,000. So this is what cost reduction and constraint elimination together can do for your enterprise. You reduce your unit cost, you increase your output, automatically your profits shoot up by 120%. You might recollect that in the initial stages, I was telling you about the company where I worked, where we could increase the profits by 550%. How did this happen? We increased the turnover by the throughput to 1,400 units, resulting in, and the unit cost reduced about 80. So on a turnover of 1,40,000, we could achieve a profit of 28,000. I hope I'm able to connect with you. See, from 5,000 rupees profit, we were able to reach 5.6 times or 28,000 just by reducing the unit cost from 95 to 80 and increasing the output from 1,000 to 1,400 units. So once these two are combined together, you find that a dramatic jump in the profits happen from 5,000 to 28,000. Or in normal terms, you will say it is the profits increase 5.6 times from 5,000 to 28,000. So this is possible. As I have experienced in my career, this is possible. We wish all enterprises success like this, a big dramatic change, a paradigm shift in your profit levels by reducing unit cost and by increasing your throughput through constraint elimination. If you increase your throughput by adding another machine, you're not going to get this benefit. Let me tell you. If you're going to increase your capacity or double your capacity by adding one more machine, then there is not going to be any change, as we have seen in another lesson. The change happens only when you're using the same infrastructure to produce more and you reduce the unit cost of the product. So with this, I come to the end of this session. We hope you people are all aware about this constraint elimination right now. Look forward to another session with you. Thank you.